Hey folks, this is Woody from WD Homesteading in South Central Pennsylvania on less than an acre of land. Last video, we talked about a trade and a talent I had and still do, and that is being able to trim and cut down trees. Well, little did I know when I was 10, 12 years old, climbing that great big 70-foot white pine trees that I would like trees so much. And of course, Woody is just so fitting of the name. And I started working for a tree company, like I said, for 13 years, and they taught me a heck of a trade. And I learned to like and appreciate trees so much. I don't know 100% why. I do like color, and I do like certain trees more than others. And I know they're good for an environment and gives out so much oxygen that we really need trees, certain kinds. Now, certain ones are invasive and they're recommending not to grow or plant. And so let's get into this a little bit and I'll show you some of our trees on a little less than an acre of land here. Okay, I always wanted one of these trees. They're called a polonial tree, and they get great big leaves about the size of an elephant ear, and they get bells, purple bells of flowers in the spring. And the story was years ago, I learned about the polonial, that these are imported trees, and the sawdust they use for some kind of ancient medicine, and the wood they use to make furniture. And I've always wanted one, and look at that. And now there's plenty of seeds where I can share them if I want or plant another one. And we're going to go over here. This tree here with no leaves that's weeping is actually not a shagbark hickory. It is a slippery elm. I'm sorry. A slippery elm. And it provides much shade. And you will, if you climb that while it's wet, you will slip. And that's how it gets its name, because of the bark right here. You see the bark? That gets wet and it gets slippery. And thank God them lanternflies haven't bothered it. And this is one of my personal favorites here. This is probably an 80-foot white oak tree. And you see the leaves aren't completely turned yet, like I showed you in my short. I've already cut one lead off. You'll see right there in the middle. Years ago, it was splitting and making a real creaking noise. So I had to cut a great big limb off it, probably a 50-foot limb. So that's one of my favorites. This here is a sassafras, and it's just a neat tree that I like. And of course, the smell of sassafras is great. And some people take the root and make sassafras tea and mix it with root beer juice. Back here, these big trees, like I showed you when the leaves were turning, are hickory. Butternut hickory or bitternut, I'm not sure. There's also a shagbark hickory, but we don't have any more of them. This is a Norway maple, which is an awesome shade tree, and they're one of the last ones to lose their leaves. Here is American holly, which grew wild in our flower bed. And of course, it has little prickles on it right there, and they will prick your skin. But I don't plan on climbing this, and by the time it gets big, I'll be a very old man. And then we go over here. This here is a Japanese maple, one of my favorite trees too. I guess because of the color. It goes from green to a real pretty red. Look at that. Isn't that neat looking? There's a Rose of Sharon bush turned into a tree, and it gets some really amazing looking flowers. And then we're going to walk over here and look at a redbud tree. And on the other side, I have another one. I like to match left side to right side. And like you've seen on some of the shorts with our myrtle bushes turned trees, they get a nice purplish flower on them. They also call it Judas tree, because this is the tree that they said Judas hung himself after portraying Jesus. Here it's called a smoke tree, which is losing its leaves and gets a nice smoky looking puff like a marshmallow type, real big in the spring. And we'll give you that spring tour after they're all blue. After they all bloom. This here is a sugar maple tree, about 65, 70 foot tall. And it was one of the first to lose its leaves. Another maple tree, which needs a little attention, needs some thinning out and trimmed. So that'll be on the agenda, hopefully, before the cold weather. One thing I don't like to do is climb trees when it's freezing cold. Another one of my favorite trees is called a southern magnolia. It gets real shiny in the spring and gets nice, big, white clumps of flowers. Just one of my favorites. And then we'll go over here. And this was a housewarming gift 14 years ago. This is a Quonset cherry. And I've trimmed this already 2 or 3 times. And it gets pretty pink flowers. This crabapple tree here, flowering pink crabapple, is probably 12 or 13 years old. And it provides excellent shade for our chickens. And the story here, when I moved in, it was a great big 70-foot scarlet oak here that I cut down, and a couple years later we planted this. Now look at that. And it also will throw seeds. We've gotten 3 or 4 or more seeds and started the trees from little. So the whole gist of why I'm showing you this, if you got a like for trees and you had the property with me, my wife has, well, where are you going to put it? So basically, we have to find trees that we like, and then we have to find trees where to put them at. So if I cut one down or 2, sometimes I'll plant 2 or 3 if I have them in the space. So we're going to plant some more trees. We are going to plant some that we like a white star magnolia and a sweet gum and many more trees. I just learned to appreciate the trees, and I like the color, and I just like how they look around the property. Okay, folks, good day.